missed you, Prometheus, my favorite cousin.
You chained me to this rock and fed my liver to an eagle.
Out of love.
Immortals Fenyx Rising chronicles the journey of Fenyx, a young Greek shield-bearer attempting to solve the mysteries of the gods. Constantly watching them, and by extension you, are Zeus and Prometheus, the game's bickering narrators who commentate your actions like godly shoutcasters. Think Bastion's dynamic narrator acting as a two-man comedy troupe dedicated to mythology jokes, and you're on the right path.
So Prometheus is the, kind of the nerd who believes in humanity and is very romantic and passionate and loves telling stories to the point of sometimes becoming pretty long-winded. Zeus is the king of the gods who has been sitting on top of his throne for a while and is used to getting everything that he wants and loves to party. He's kind of the aging frat boy. And so that's the odd couple that you have.
This mortal has no sense of safety. Jumps right into holes like a rabbit or a tomb.
Zeus! No lawsuits here, please.
Prometheus and Zeus have a bet at the very beginning. And the bet is that if Fenyx turns out to be a hero that's capable of rescuing the gods from this villain Typhon who has turned everyone to stone, then Prometheus will be set free. And if Zeus wins, then Prometheus has to shut up about that forever. The whole narrative hinges on that bet, and that's why Prometheus is telling the story to Zeus.
Do we have a deal?
If you win, I'll end your punishment and set you free. But if I win, you help me stop Typhon, whatever it takes.
Very well.
This may sound like serious stakes, but the duo are far from dour. Their dialogue, triggered by your own actions and story milestones, is loaded with jokes, from observational comedy to nudge-nudge wink-wink punchlines. It's a tone that's inspired directly by the Greek myths themselves.
The myths themselves were always not sacred in the sense of today, the way that we treat the story of Jesus or the Bible, whereas the Greek myths were much more like reality television for the people who were alive at that time. They were heroes, sort of, but not really. Like, for instance, there were no temples built to Ares pretty much because no one liked Ares. You can make fun of gods or dislike gods or feel like they did something wrong.
One of those evil parasites is about to save your royal ass.
My ass is safely lodged in the Aegean stables.
This is a game for, if you're a mythology nerd and you know a lot about mythology, you're going to laugh, with all these secret jokes. And if you don't know a lot about mythology, there also is a lot of stuff for you to laugh about. And so the game works on these multiple layers.
As narrators, Zeus and Prometheus are not just joke dispensers. They also fulfill a vital role in aiding the player.
A lot of games, you have the protagonist talking to themselves like, I don't have a key to that door. And instead, I get to have a conversation between Zeus and Prometheus about why doesn't he have a key? Or why doesn't she have a key?
But the two are not just there to be Fenyx's live commentator. Zeus and Prometheus have their own story that plays out across your journey.
I found a way to make sure that the narrative progresses while also allowing you to do whatever you want at any moment. And so they're not static characters, which is another really cool thing. The story of Zeus and Prometheus and the relationship to each other evolve over the course of the game. They don't just stay as these commentators. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a story. It would just be commentary.
To create this dynamic narration system required books worth of recorded voiceover.
The amount of content is actually mind-boggling. I don't even know how to describe to you the amount of hours of VO there is in this game from Zeus and Prometheus, and the amount of jokes. They're scattered everywhere.
So you can just wave away whatever you want with narration. Zeus, a perfect father and husband, approves.
This might be a fantasy game, but even we have limits.
As you'd expect, this means in a single playthrough, you're unlikely to hear everything the two have to say.
It depends how much the player explores. If the player doesn't explore at all and just goes on the main path through the game, probably something like 50%, maybe even less.
The characters of Zeus and Prometheus grew out of a previous system that had been built for Immortals back when it was known as Gods and Monsters. Originally, famed Greek author Homer was set to narrate the game.
Homer was telling a story that had already been set in stone that was long dead. And so that means that Homer has no stakes in that narrative and isn't a part of that narrative, so exists completely independently. So having Zeus and Prometheus be the narrators of the story meant that the time period was the same. And so the outcome of that story really mattered for each of them. And it's happening simultaneously. That allowed for a much more complex narrative.
Typhon's rage and corruption were powerful, but Phoenix slipped through his clutches. For now.
Oh, that was a bit much. What just happened?
Where have you been?
For more Immortals Fenyx Rising, check out one of these other videos. And for everything else, stick with IGN.